screwed up the view for the TikTok chat. So let me get that corrected. Just a second. Because I completely forgot. It's not exactly the way I want it. There we go. That's better. That's better. Cool. Perfect. Hello everyone. Welcome back to the ZagGP channel. Coming a little bit later than usual for my post-race live stream on F1 Fantasy. And it really is mainly because I was just absolutely shattered. Absolutely shattered. So obviously this weekend it was a lot of deadlines to hit at very weird times. Like I'd get back from work, then I'd have to wait a few hours for the sprint quali, get to sleep around 1-2 o'clock after editing that shit. Then the next day with qualifying and such, probably doing the exact same BS as well. And while all of this is going on, F1 Fantasy wasn't even going well. And then of course I ended up watching the race, not at my house after work, and then basically it wasn't even F1 Fantasy. It ended up not even being that great. So then I had to do the race review, and I was like, oh, how could this be happening? Hey Yannick, how you doing? Hey John, how you doing? Wrecked in the sprint with McLaren Constructor. Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? Because I mentioned this actually on my Twitch, not Twitch, Twitter. Well, Verstappen, he has carried hard. 48 points is not a bad feat in. Let me move the chat a little bit smaller so it actually fits onto the screen there. What was I saying? Yeah, Verstappen. Fastest lap driver today. I'm really disappointed he didn't get one of them. I listen, like, I think it's also because I was in that F1 Fantasy mood that I wasn't too impressed with the Leclerc driver of the day. I did think he had a brilliant race, to be fair, so I understand why he got it. But you actually know in my race review, I thought Tsunoda should have got it, unbiasedly. But then, talking about bias, I wish Verstappen had got it, because I needed those 10 points. And even fastest lap, when Antonelli had it, I was like, surely when Verstappen sticks on these tyres, he's going to get the fastest lap. And now we're into a position where Verstappen and Leclerc got the same amount of points in F1 Fantasy this weekend. What? Like, what? Like, what is going on? So, I really don't know where we go from this. Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? You can never predict that McLaren's going to have a double DNF in the sprint. Like, you could have predicted that they could have clashed. But the way they clashed was just so weird. Obviously, with it being Piastri and Hülkenberg's collision, and with Norris just kind of getting collided with it, I just can't believe what I saw. And it's a shame that Piastri ended up actually DNFing, because if he just got it round the circuit and he hadn't broken his suspension, maybe he could have gained a few places, and then it would have been a -10 or a -8, and it would have been more doable. And then we get into the qualifying. I mean, let's just deep dive into Piastri, wasn't it? What a dreadful weekend for him. I don't know what gives me more pain, being unlucky with DNFs in F1 Fantasy, or Mike Rabel being an idiot and not giving Henderson runs in the NFL. Mate, that's another good thing, where having multiple fantasies going on a weekend is painful, because I had that with FPL as well this weekend. I actually did half decent in FPL because I had Mateta and a Haaland, but we won't talk about that. It's not an FPL channel. But then again, we also had this, and it's like, it's too much to comprehend. But yeah, Gian, I fully get what you're talking about, like going with one of those differential builds, but it just didn't, like, we can all agree it just didn't make sense at the time. From everything we had been shown, even in Singapore, we knew McLaren had pace. Going into Cota, we saw in sprint quali, McLaren had pace. Everything was looking fine. McLaren's would have got around 30-ish points each this weekend, knocking Hamilton and Leclerc down a few points. So they would have been about the same as the Ferraris, which is not bad. But it's just, how the hell is that where we've got to with McLaren? I mean, let's just have a look at the budget builder this weekend, because I will be talking about this more today. I've got the recording with Fanamp later today in about 3 hours, I think. So that video will be coming out probably tomorrow. But the required points has gone absolutely mental for next race weekend. Leclerc 19, Russell 25. You're not going to see teams with Leclerc and Russell. I doubt you're even going to see teams with Leclerc even at 19. It will be Verstappen and Russell, the main two that people are excited for. Very excitingly, Yuki Tsunoda actually is a viable option at 10.2. I can actually tell all of you here, potentially looking at bringing him into my team. It's either bringing Red Bull as a constructor or bringing Tsunoda in as a driver, just to get that 0.6 million, because I'm in a tough pickle where I need 0.6 million to dick about with all of these drivers here. But it was ridiculous. And then everyone else is not looking good. Look, like Alonso, Behrman, Lawson, Bortoleto, Colapinto all look good for 0.2 million. But no one looks good for 0.6 million at Barcelona, which is insane. We haven't had that in F1 Fantasy for a while now. Hulkenberg looks dreadful. Ocon, Stroll. Albon still needs 21 points. Insane. Sainz is back down to not needing a lot of points. Hadjar still needs a lot of points. Antonelli probably is one of the more doable drivers because he's looking good in that Mercedes again. Like I even thought about bringing in Antonelli or Tsunoda, but wanted to play it safe. Yeah, it's crazy how even that would have been better. It's the luck of the draw. It's like what I mentioned on the live stream 2 days ago, where in F1 Fantasy there's only so much you can predict. Like of McLaren look fast, Verstappen look fast. That's the way it's gonna go. Realistically, from Norris and Verstappen's point of view, that's basically what happened. But then you can't predict that there's going to be a lap 1 incident that just so happens to take out both McLarens. You can't then predict that from the sprint quali to to the actual qualifying. Piastri's just going to lose all the pace he's had this weekend. Incredible, absolutely incredible. The sprint DNF cost them big time, not knowing how low they can set the car. Yeah, that's literally, it's got to be all in the setup. Has to be. My team 2 was the highest standing, had Piastri. Ooh, whoa. Yannick, that means it was not a good weekend, would it? My team 1 was good, though, with only Sainz -3, but overall 220 points versus 100. Wow. Wow. I mean, yeah, actually, if we go back over to the live scoring, as you can see what I ended up getting, 211. It does actually mean, if we head over to the leagues, I have gone up in the leagues to 2,085. So don't get me wrong, extra DRS. So don't get me wrong. Not extra DRS. Top 1,000 is still doable for me. And it's still doable out there for everyone, most likely, if you're looking around the top 5,000 to 10,000. It's just a lot harder now because obviously we're going to get to Cota. Basically, what I've got to do now, yeah, I do want to actually bring that up, Basil, as well, because that is insane and it will have massive effects for F1 Fantasy heading forward. But I now need to be around 600, 700th in the world come Qatar, I'm saying, to keep in the top 1,000. Because I will be dropping in Qatar, no matter how good my weekend is. Extra DRS, used properly, will outperform. Will outperform that. But it's still a green arrow. It's still a green arrow. But it's not a good one. It's not a good one. I can't be delusional to you all and say it's been a fantastic weekend. It was not a good weekend for F1 Fantasy. For the championship, I've brought that up just for a little bit. Absolutely loving it. Absolutely buzzing for the championship. 14 points, 40 points. Oh my word. Because also it's going to make the racing a little bit more fun for the bordering races that we have coming up. Like, I don't think Mexico is going to be anything crazy. But then what do we have after Mexico? Brazil, Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi. Okay, that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. Yeah, so let's actually talk about the Williams being an A-tier driver. Constructor, I mean. What does it mean going forward? So you can still use them, of course. I think 35 points for 0.3 million is still doable. However, they lose their benefit. Now you look at it and you see, okay, 18.5. They're less than 10 million away from Mercedes. There's not enough in there now to go, I think, keeping Williams to not go up to a Mercedes or a Ferrari or a Red Bull. So it really hurts them. Whereas you've got people like VCarb who get similar points, still at 14.2, who will go up 0.6 million, more than 10 million away. They now look like the strongest to continue this trend forward. So even though it's not a big thing in F1 Fantasy because a lot of people won't be using Williams anyway. Actually, let's have a look. We can have a look at the elite data and see exactly how many people we're talking about here. Williams, 3.8% for the top 500. That is about right. I mean, Sainz, 87.6%. We knew that was going to happen, so that doesn't matter too much about the DNF. But what can you do? You know what I mean? It's absolutely incredible. Right, let me get up the TikTok chat as well because I completely forgot to bring that up. Imagine I didn't use autopilot, I would less than 100. Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of people this time out got less than 100. So it's not a crazy thing to think about. Not a crazy thing at all. McLaren fumbling thanks to Leclerc's defending. Yeah, Leclerc did absolutely spectacular this weekend. It was insane. Mexico is like the same as Austin, setup-wise. Yeah, it will be. It's just McLaren need to sort something out. I think Brazil will be the next race. If it doesn't rain, that McLaren will win. So basically, it will be Piastri's got to hope that... let me move this down a little bit. There we are. No, now that's too low. There we go. Piastri's got to hope that he wins Brazil, and Norris has got to hope that he wins it. And then the next race where they could put up a fight is probably Qatar. But Vegas and Mexico, I don't think McLaren would win. I don't think they will. Like we've seen here. I think Verstappen looks good again for Mexico, which, heading back to F1 Fantasy terms, he will be the number one choice. I mean, elite data-wise, 94.2% have Verstappen now. Insane, considering how much higher. 99% had McLaren as well. That will be dropping heading in to Mexico. But Verstappen will be the top dog. It's just, who do you pair him with? Who do you pair him with in a 4A lineup? We don't know. We really don't know. Because Leclerc, at the end of the day, he's not getting another 48-pointer. He might do well, and Ferrari might show that they've got a bit of pace. You might see teams heading over to... If we head over to some teams I can make, let's say you have three changes and you got a team similar to mine, you might see people going boom, 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 boom. You might see teams like this, where you got Verstappen, Leclerc, McLaren, Ferrari. That's very knee-jerky, 100%, but it's doable teams. Very, very doable. You could also see people doing this as well, where if you don't want Alonso, they could go up to someone like a Behrman, who looks a little bit more comfortable. You got teams like this. What also could happen is, if Ferrari look half decent, you just get people going over to Leclerc, whichever one looks better. And you could also see stuff like this. Verstappen, Leclerc, McLaren, Red Bull. Now, what's very, very exciting, just got a feeling Verstappen could win the World Championship before Abu Dhabi. I'd be surprised if he did win before Abu Dhabi, just because of how he needs a DNF for that to happen. But it's not out of question he's winning the championship. I really do think it is 33 at the minute right now. Piastri, with Piastri's form right now, he doesn't look like he's comfortable with it. Norris looks like he's coming in, but not coming in fast enough to prevent Verstappen if he continues the trend he's going. I'm 3k and 6k now, but still have no negative 3 times wildcard on Team 1, even farm fixed left. Yeah, Yannick, that's what I'm saying, because like I'm 2000th in the world now in the global leagues. There's 2 more sprints, so there'll be Brazil as well as a sprint weekend as well. So we've got to look out for that one. I've obviously used extra DRS now, so I've got to work 10 times harder than I have in F1 Fantasy for the next few weekends ahead of the likes of Qatar. What's it called? So Mexico and Brazil and Vegas have to be 3 of my best weekends for F1 Fantasy to get into the top 1,000, and then hold strong in Qatar. Hope that something crazy happens on the 3 times potentially. And then in Abu Dhabi, I always go for a differential team if I'm not already in the top 1,000 to just try something more, because I think it's always worthwhile. Like last year, I will tell you last year, if we actually head back to my last year standings. Where is it? 2024. You can't see the last year standings, but coming into Abu Dhabi, I was 1,200th in the world in F1 Fantasy. Verstappen to win the World Drivers' Championship. It's going to be close. It's going to be close. And 100%, if anyone can do it, he can do it. And, I mean, he's pretty much shown it, hasn't he? I also will say, I will be making a video on this maybe in a week's time or something. But I need to speak about how Verstappen is going to be the best F1 driver ever if he wins this championship season. No one will have done anything to resemble what he has done this year if he goes and wins this championship. Absolutely insane, and no one could ever take that away from him. Oh, well, until the future in like 10, 20 years' times, who knows. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Yeah, I was about 1.3 to 1.4k in the world before Abu Dhabi. I then went, it's not going to show me my team, is it? I then went with Leclerc 2 times, and it ended up being the best move possible. That jumped me up to 800th in the world. Those are the sorts of things you need in Abu Dhabi to make sure it works out. I'm still waiting for Leclerc to win a World Drivers' Championship. Oh, mate, honestly, I feel sorry for you because, like, it just, at Ferrari, I don't see it happening. It just looks like Leclerc's not on it. Really doesn't look like he's on it. But I say Leclerc, actually. My bad, not Leclerc. Bloody Ferrari's not on it. I should mention that. Opinion on Russell Merck triple Red Bull. So let's see what that team could make. I'm going to tell you right now, opinions on it are good, Yannick, because that's actually potentially, I won't spoil it crazy amounts, but in the fan app video, very similar team to what I forecasted. I will be keeping McLaren because I don't think they'll drop off a cliff. But very, very close team to what I've been forecasting. So, what was it? So, it was Russell, Verstappen. Verstappen would be the 2 times heading into Mexico. And triple Red Bull. So, then Red Bull down here. And then Sainz up to a Yuki. Honestly, I like it. Because then also you could dick about here with someone like a... I like the look of Behrman for the next race weekend. You have the likes of this. This would be a very good differential team. I still don't think on a normal race weekend this team outperforms a normal McLaren team of having McLaren, Mercedes or Red Bull with Verstappen up top with, I'm acting like he's a bloody striker. Verstappen as the 2 times with Russell or Piastri. McLaren haven't dropped off a cliff. It's just because of the DNF they got in the sprint. And we all know DNFs are way too harsh, especially in the sprint. I mean, bloody hell, I put out a TikTok short, YouTube short, TikTok about it. And the YouTube short it's probably the most liked short I've ever had, considering the views it got. I got about 1,000 odd views. And it's got 50 plus likes or something. Insane. People were very, very much agreeing on that. And I can't blame them on that. And there's 141 points left to go for Verstappen, so it's possible. Yeah, there's 141 points for him as well, but the thing is, McLaren will have the races where they're better. And, oh, thank you very much for following, J Vort. McLaren will have the good car elsewhere. Like I, no doubt in my mind, Brazil 100%, McLaren will be the fastest car. It's just a track that looks like it'd be more McLaren related, unless there's weather. If there's weather, you know who's coming in fast, and that's Maxi Taxi. I'm 1.2k, but don't have the budget to work 4A with Verstappen. Basil, where do you go from that? So I would say if you're 1.2, you need Verstappen. So 100%, you need to have Verstappen. So who would then be the cheapest? I think honestly, if you couldn't afford someone like Verstappen, you would have to go to something like Colapinto, Alonso, and let's say you could bring in someone like where's Bortoletto? Bortoletto come down here. There he is. So let's say you've got this. You might end up having to run a team with Kimi Antonelli. Because honestly, where we are right now in F1 Fantasy, the 2 times on Max is a must-have. How the hell am I, this part of the season, saying a 2 times is a must for Verstappen? This is incredible. This is just absolutely incredible how this is where we've got now this season. I love it. I love it. But if you couldn't afford a 4A with a normal lineup, you'd have to go this route. Now then, if you had a little bit more money to spend, you could upgrade Mercedes to a Red Bull. But realistically, what everyone wants to get to, minimum, for the next race weekend is McLaren, do you keep them? Do you not? I still think they're a must-have. I really do think, because without the DNF points, they would have scored similar. Pardon me. Similar, potentially more, than Ferrari would have got. Because they would have finished second and third in the sprint. And then they would have finished second and fifth in the actual race, with qualifying being half decent as well. How many points did they get for pit stops? Pit stops, 5 points, not crazy. But they would have got around 70 to 80 points. And on a normal race weekend, I think McLaren are still just enough to keep in your team. So then, I think McLaren are still a must-have, and then it's Mercedes or Red Bull. Depending on your budget, Mercedes if you can't afford Red Bull. Then you go over to Verstappen, who's the 2 times. But Piastri now isn't even a must-have. Verstappen now is not a must-have. Verstappen is a must-have. Piastri isn't a must-have. So where do you go from there? Well, I still think Piastri is a good option. If you can... He's still not a bad option. But he's that second 80th driver. Now you've got to weigh him up against Leclerc, Russell, and Piastri. And out consistency this season, I would still favour Piastri on points. But you've got people like Leclerc now who looks great for a budget. So let's say you need to go increasing. Sorry, I've just had a message about work. I will get to it after the live stream. Leclerc looks also good. Ferrari could be half decent as well at Mexico. Then all of a sudden, like I mentioned, you could also just be moving over to a Ferrari as a constructor. Really annoying, because if Alonso went up 0.6 million, I could do this team, which looks absolutely stunning, by the way. Absolutely stunning. But, I mean, Red Bull are now the best car on the grid. They are. I really, really want to see when Verstappen doesn't end up winning a race now, because it looks like he could go all the way, realistically, for the rest of the season. Oh my, sorry. I've just realised that I've been getting messages through, and it has not been, it hasn't been refreshing. That's my bad. Let me get to some of these messages. What's your budget, ATM? At the minute, I believe it only went up 0.2 this weekend. It was not a good budget weekend for me, but it's 135.7. So we've still got a good budget to work around. I was kind of hoping after this weekend it'd be in the 136s/137s. So it is disappointing, but it's still a good enough budget to play around with. Basil says, 3 times on... I had Verstappen already with 3 times on him, but I have Piastri and him with McLaren Williams. Yeah, so Basil, in your situation where, yeah, you definitely go Verstappen or Antonelli to keep... to push up Williams as constructor, because you can't have McLaren and Williams anymore. It doesn't look crazy. But then you also have the likes of, okay, if you don't want to have Antonelli, you could stick at Williams, I guess. But no, I don't think it's worth it. I think Antonelli holds his own now against the rest of the premium drivers, like the Hamiltons, Leclerc, in the sense of F1 Fantasy points. Craig says, between all the DNFs I've copped in Melbourne and Cota, my season is stuffed. It took me half season to get over the early season DNF points. And the Cota happens. What a joke. Craig, I can't agree with you more. It is just pot luck. Anyone who says it's otherwise they're BSing you. I mean, even on weekends where I don't have any DNFs, I think most of the time I also go like, it's unfortunate if you get a DNF, because there's nothing you can do about it. You just never know. Like, coming into this weekend, you don't know Sainz is going to DNF in the race after having a sprint podium. What the hell are those polarizing choices? Insane. Absolutely insane. How the hell does that work? You don't know that's going to happen. You know Sainz has pace. Guess what? Sainz did have pace. So, going off the stats, going off everything we've seen, Sainz was the good option to use. And if you finished that race, you would have finished in around P6, P7, P8. Would have been a great option. But he goes and crashes. You never know that's going to happen. And then you take a minus 20. It's very disappointing, but that's the way F1 Fantasy goes. And that's also why we're sort of pushing for F1 Fantasy to lower the DNF minus 20. Because at the end of the day, especially for a sprint, at the end of the day, no one's getting more than 20 points in a sprint. So how can a DNF be the biggest downside, the biggest swing? How can a DNF be the biggest swing when You've got the likes of Carlos Sainz in P3, Yuki Tsunoda going up more than 10 places. How can they be getting less points in a sprint? How can they be getting less of a swing than someone who just got a DNF? It's harsh. That's why I think in sprint races, DNF should be halved to at least a -10. Because then that adds in a little bit more to it. Philip says, hi bro, I absolutely cooked this weekend. Red Bull constructor and no McLaren driver was to play. Wow, that... honestly, congratulations. That is one hell of a differential play, and it's worked out perfectly for you. Good on ya. And where's it put you in the global ranks? Because I'd be happy to know how much that's boosted you this weekend. Why Red Bull when there is last year winner Ferrari? Marab, same as the reason for Cota, honestly. Verstappen just looks unstoppable right now. And Yuki's been half decent. So I think even on a weekend like Mexico, it's going to be Verstappen versus the McLarens again. Verstappen probably with the edge. And then Ferrari, Mercedes sort of getting involved bits and bobs. Maybe because of how well they did in Mexico last year, Ferrari will be the better option. But it then means we're not really even looking at them too much. Damn, I have 133.5 on my Team 1. Finally caught you there with 2 million increase. Yeah, I know I'm starting to struggle on the budget increases. But to be fair, it doesn't matter too much. I say I'm struggling. I've got the teams you need now for the rest of the season. It's all just about not getting those bloody DNFs. Problem is, I have Sainz and couldn't sell Hadjar last week without taking a hit with him. Starting last, I expected some overtake points. Is a pickle for real. Yeah. And then Hadjar did not have a great weekend, did he? It's a really difficult one. It really is. And you don't really know where you push it. You really don't. But let's head back over to the budget builders to give a little bit of a rundown on exactly where we're looking at for the Mexican Grand Prix after Cota, who looks like the drivers most people will be bringing in. So the gist of it is Leclerc and Russell are your budget options this weekend. Do I think people will be bringing them in? Leclerc? I don't think Leclerc will be a big option. I think it will be 50-50 between him and Leclerc and Russell, but we'll have to see what Ferrari's pace is like. Could be worth it, but at the same time, it's now Leclerc, Russell, Piastri. And I still think in the real world, Piastri has to get a better result eventually. And I still think out of Leclerc, Russell, Piastri wins it on points. So if you're just going for points, I think Piastri outs Leclerc and Russell a little bit. But here's the thing. Then we get into the system of, well, Leclerc's going to get 0.3. Piastri isn't going to get a 0.3. And Leclerc's probably only going to be around 5-ish points behind Piastri. Because Piastri will probably get a second or third. Leclerc will probably get in the top 5. Is there enough of a points difference to not go for Leclerc over Piastri? And that's a whole other thing of, well, do you need the budget? If not, like me, probably would stick with Piastri. If you do, you'd go to someone like a Leclerc. Then heading into the B-tier drivers, actually two options that are going to be very useful are Tsunoda and Antonelli. Like I mentioned, we're going to be seeing differential teams with Tsunoda, Antonelli, and Verstappen all as their 3 big drivers. Especially on a weekend where there's no big B-tier drivers. Colapinto, Alonso, Behrman, Lawson, Bortoleto are the next best options. Doesn't look anything crazy. Sorry, pardon me. Tsunoda and Antonelli could become a brilliant differential. Do I think Tsunoda's going to get 37 points in Mexico? Of course not. But do I think he'll get more than 10 points? Potentially, with the way he's been acting. He's been very good. I think McLaren is going to struggle as Red Bull will be the best car for the remaining tracks. I agree Red Bull will be the best at Mexico. Potentially Qatar. Potentially Abu Dhabi. But I don't think they're going to be the fastest around Vegas or Brazil. So it's going to be pick and choose. McLaren need to have, and that's the thing, McLaren won't be good at Vegas as well. That's going to be a Mercedes track. McLaren need to win Brazil. I think that's their final chance if it doesn't rain. Won't you think at some point Hamilton will get his podium? Some point 2026. Honestly, I don't think it's happening. I think there's just too much of a fight at the front at the minute between the McLarens, Verstappen, and Russell and Leclerc. Russell's just too consistent. And even when Hamilton gets these weekends where he does well, Leclerc does even better. It's a shame, but I don't think it's happening this weekend. Sent you a video that shows some interesting data in Cota that really helps predicting the next races. Oh, thanks, Yannick. I'll have a look at that, yeah. Where's my Discord? I don't think Brazil will be. I don't think. It's more of a it's closer to what we had in Singapore, Hungary, Zandvoort type tracks. And overall, McLaren have shown that they could still be better at tracks like that. Vegas will be Mercedes and the rest will be Red Bull. That's my thinking of it. And ask, I'm looking at going from Verstappen, Russell, Bortoleto, Gasly, Sainz, McLaren, Red Bull to Verstappen, Russell, good, Tsunoda, good. I've mentioned him quite a bit actually. Bortoleto, Gasly, McLaren, Mercedes, that gives a nice budget rise. Good for the budget rise. Tsunoda's in good form at the minute for that second Red Bull seat terms. I very much agree. I can actually tell you my forecasted team for next race weekend is either Verstappen, Russell, Alonso. Verstappen, Russell, Alonso. Actually, just let me bloody get it up. Actually, let me get it up. Because I can't remember what I wrote, actually. Let me get up what I did my forecast team for Fan App. I got 190. Tommy Chapman says, I've got 199 points last weekend. If you didn't use 2 times, great. If it was extra if you didn't use extra DRS, great. If it was a 2 times, it's a shame. Had Verstappen, Tsunoda, Antonelli, Alonso, Sainz. Oh, yeah, cool. So it wouldn't have been a 2 time. It wouldn't have been an extra DRS. Verstappen good, Tsunoda good, Antonelli good, Alonso shame, Sainz shame. Yeah, and then McLaren shame. For a non-extra DRS weekend, brilliant. So I don't think Yuki will keep it up to the extent he has done, but he'll keep it up to an extent of he might be able to get 10 points, which is all we need from him. Yeah. So my predicted lineup for next race weekend, so Mexico, was Verstappen, Russell, Tsunoda, Colapinto, Alonso, with McLaren and Mercedes, or Verstappen, Russell, Alonso. I believe it would have been Lawson or someone like Bortoleto, Colapinto, McLaren, Red Bull. So it's, do I bring in Red Bull over Mercedes or Tsunoda over Bortoleto? I've got to make my mind up, but they're both half decent options. So I'm quite happy with where we can go with that. And I'm looking to get Mercedes, Ferrari, Verstappen. Here's the thing. I still think that it's not a done out that McLaren aren't the constructor you need to get. I think this is going to be a trap that a lot of people fall into, where McLaren, you do have to think about whether you want to bring them into your team. Do they bring enough of an upside for a guaranteed slot? No. I can understand going for something like a Mercedes Ferrari because it clears up the space, so then you can go with Verstappen and Russell and teams like that. And if it's that sort of situation, I think potentially that's fine. I think you could be able to do that 100%. But with teams that have a lot of budget, like my ones and such, there's no need. There's really no need to not get rid of McLaren. And at the end of the day, if I show you right now, so let's just say this is the team I'd be going at. Yeah, let's just say we've got this right now. Sorry, it'd actually be Gasly over Bortoleto, my bad. If we're looking at teams like this, McLaren still is half decent. In no world can I see McLaren, especially for F1 Fantasy, not both being in the top 5 next weekend. What does that mean for all of the other constructors? Well, if we head over to the live scoring, without the DNFs, McLaren would have got an extra 40 points, 62 points. Realistically, would have got a few sprint results, so that's an extra 15-ish points, maybe a position gain points, maybe an overtake extra points. So they probably would have got an extra 60 points, which is 82 to Ferrari's 85. Considering that's what they could have got predicted, on a race weekend it didn't go well, I still think they're there for everyone to still use. But if you need the differential play, I can fully understand going to a Ferrari Red Bull or a Ferrari Mercedes Red Bull, to make sure you can bring in a Verstappen and even like a Norris. Because actually, a team I haven't mentioned, but isn't a bad option, is something like this. I can't afford it, sadly. I'm 0.1 million off, I didn't realise. So let's go back to Merc and go Mercedes to that and that. Right now, Verstappen and Norris look like a beautiful double to have if we're continuing like that. I also like that as a differential if you go with the non-McLaren route. But again, if we're talking about having a McLaren asset here of Norris or Piastri, then they're most likely going to be doing good as a constructor as well. Will anyone ever be able to predict what Ferrari will ever do ever? A big fat no. They are impossible to read. It's absolutely ridiculous. One day they're terrible. One day they can't. And it's like, what? Yeah. So you've got those differential plays. I would say this is a big differential. I'll show you the other big differential. Boom, boom. This is another differential play for everyone out there who needs a team similar. This is another differential where you have 2 times Verstappen, Antonelli, Tsunoda in good form. Keeping McLaren and Red Bull. I actually really like this team. I really do like this. Definitely a team worth looking into. You can also go to likes of this. Drop Red Bull down to Merc. Bring in Russell, or not Hamilton, or Leclerc. You've got those differentials. It's going to be differential city in Mexico. And it's actually quite annoying because in the fan app video, I don't think we can really show all of these different team selections because there's just so many. Because there is no... I always talk about the foundation in F1 Fantasy about how you've got the set teams of 2 constructors guaranteed set on. And you've got 2 basically dead set A-tier drivers. Hey, Antonelli isn't ideal. But if we head over to those points, even after, obviously he got fastest lap, but even after having that punt, he got 22 points. In F1 Fantasy, he's not a bad option, especially at his price. It's incredible. So you've got to keep an eye on that. You could have McLaren and Ferrari. There's so many routes you can go. And I'm going to try delve into it, obviously, today, but it's on the video, but it's going to be insane. Ferrari is a circus. One day you get the cloud, one day you get the fire thingy. That is... Nixie, you shut up! Yannick, that is a beautiful way of putting it. That is 100% literally the way Ferrari go. Nixie, you know you agree. Nixie, what was your team again? What was your team? I can't remember, but I guarantee there's a DNF in there, isn't there? And you would have loved that -10 as well, over a -20. Could you get McLaren, Red Bull, Norris, Piastri? I don't think so. No, I can't even afford it with Mercedes. Because it would be... Bat. If you had a bit more budget than me, you could, but it's not a triple McLaren world anymore. It's Verstappen's world and we're just living in it. It used to be a McLaren world, it's not anymore. It's all Verstappen. All that maxi taxi. Speed. Could you afford Verstappen, Russell, maybe Piastri or Antonelli? So yeah, so Tommy, that's actually my forecasted team. It would be boom. If I wanted to go a more by the way, it cost me actually exactly 0 million. If I wanted to go with a slight differential to work around, this would be my forecasted team. Like I mentioned. Actually, you know what? Fat Boy, honestly, it's just because he's always kind of sucked around Cota. I don't think he's going to be OP around Mexico either. He's also not been incredible around Cota. It's a shame for him. It is a shame, but he's got to pick up the pace of the championship. Championship is going to slip away from him if he doesn't carry on. But anyway, let me just show you my teams because I think I've got 2 or 3 teams I could go for. First team is what I'll most likely run in Mexico if Mercedes look good in practice and I still believe Tsunoda could pull off a half-decent result. You've then also got the staying the line team of keeping Piastri because Piastri still hasn't looked terrible and bringing in Bortoletto. Going with that, keeping the line, staying with McLaren, hoping they do half-decent. Not a bad shout. Oh, not with Piastri 2 times. My, oh my, don't ever let that get there. Oh my. Yeah, Nixie, I know. The DNFs were ridiculous. It's crazy. But you've also got a team like this. This would be the second option I could use. And then you've also got bam, to the bam, to the bam, to the bam. Or we've got this team. So I've got 3 teams I could go for. Those are the 3 I would sort of go for. Then heading into differential territories for anyone who wants a differential team. So anyone out there who can't afford Verstappen with another 280er driver, then you go over to the likes of these teams. We have Verstappen, Antonelli, Tsunoda, McLaren, Red Bull. Again, I still think McLaren will outperform Mercedes and Ferrari. If you can't afford that, then you had the likes of going over to a Red Bull Ferrari team, let's say. And then you could also go up to a Russell Tsunoda, a Leclerc Tsunoda, these sorts of teams. But I don't think that's worth it. So those are like the 3 or 4 teams I think people will be running mostly in F1 Fantasy heading out of this race weekend. So keep that in mind heading into Mexico. And then Verstappen 2 times, Norris, Red Bull, McLaren. Yep. And then you've also got that option. Where, how much did that cost? It's a difficult one because, so if we keep Alonso, my bad. Alonso with Gasly. Red Bull's there. Yeah, like I'm miles off it. I'm miles off it right now. But you could also go, you could also go this way, Tommy. Yeah, like you've just mentioned. Why does it keep putting 2 times on Piastri? I know why, because it hasn't adjusted it from the 2 times. But you've also got those options there. Where you could go keeping double McLaren, double Red Bull. That's not a bad option at all as well. It's going to be very interesting. So what's that? 5 separate teams that all look really good for next race weekend? Insane. Yeah, no, Tommy, that's fine. Yeah, I can afford that just about. And as you can see, so that'd be 135 points. Oh, fucking hell, sorry. 135.7 million is how much this would cost. Yeah, Tom Carter, yeah. So basically, this is why budget's so important in F1 Fantasy. So you can go over to these sorts of teams heading into like Mexico and such. Do I think Piastri will be the way to go? If not, then you can swap down to a Russell. You can swap down to a Leclerc. Or you could also go over to a Russell. Not have Red Bull, have Mercedes. And increase over from a Gasly over to a Yuki. You've also got these sorts of teams. Yeah, no, don't worry, Tom. Thank you very much for the follow. In F1 Fantasy, the way the prices change each season are so drastic that and that we learn every new year how it's gonna work. Like this season, if we head over to the budget building on F1 Fantasy Tools, you can see it's the average of 3 races, which is just insane because sometimes you get the likes of people like Hulkenberg, who's come off the bat of a -8. If you get a DNF, like you got Sainz now, who's got -3 because of that DNF, he's going to be of no use to us for a little while again. It's just the way it goes in F1 Fantasy this year. But it also means it's hard to understand if you don't get the calculations of it, exactly where the budget options are coming from. Because they don't make sense half the time. Like, Tsunoda's now great because of his result in Cota for Mexico. It's brilliant. Tommy asked, because Colapinto, Gasly, 4.5 million, so they can't drop a McLaren Red Bull. Yeah, no, I fully agree. And I do think from what we've seen last race, where you had Colapinto and Gasly not doing terrible compared to the likes of other B-tier drivers, like Alonso, Ocon, Sainz, Stroll, Hulkenberg, Hadjar, they beat all of them. Behrman, Lawson, Albon, Bortoletto were outliers in the B-tier driver-wise. So 100%, I don't think having double Alpine is a terrible cost anymore, especially if you can keep someone like Alonso heading into next race weekend, where there's still a half-decent option to go up. You got Colapinto, who looks like a half-decent option to go up as well, 0.5, 0.6 or 0.3 million. So you've got all of those. Nixie has the worst chip. Yeah, no, Yannick, I should be asking you, Nixie, every single time you get you bring in a chip. I might just have to not use it. It's like when I bring in Norris to my team. Every single time I brought in Norris was Canada, where he crashed, and Zandvoort, where he had an engine failure. Like, how does that even happen? Thank you very much for the subscription, for subscribing, Nick. Thank you very much. I appreciate the support on the channel. Obviously, the last few videos I've actually done on the channel have been a little bit weird because I'm not the biggest editing fan, but because I have to like push them out so quickly, like yesterday, I didn't even edit. I cut a few bits of my clips, put on a green screen, and just spoke. Because I just didn't have enough time to edit. And those videos are fun to do in the sense of they're very easy for me to make. But it is a shame I couldn't edit it a little bit more. But thank you so much for the support anyway, even when I have to put out videos that are slightly rushed. In the sense of, I'm still talking about the same things I always talk about, but the editing's not as nice. On another note, my anti-F1 Fantasy team cooked 2 times Ocon with Alonso, Colapinto, Gazzy. 2 times Ocon. What a play. What a play on anti-F Fantasy. Jeez Louise. Alonso DNF. Stroll got a DNF in there. My oh my, that was really nice. And Aston and Alpine. Oh, that is beautiful. How has Alpine ended up being a half-decent option? Oh, that is too funny, man. Too funny. Tommy asks, is 130.5 million good? Yeah, it's a good budget. 135 million, if we head back over to the teams that you can use. 135 million can still run you a... I can't run you a McLaren, Verstappen, Piastri team, I don't think. It's close to running a Verstappen, Piastri team. And then also, you can still run a Verstappen, Russell team with 130.5. So where's Russell or Leclerc? You can run these teams with 130.5. You're still living life and you can still do well in these there. Maybe you'd need to get a little bit more budget so you don't have to rely on the double Alpines, or you could hope that Alonso can increase a little bit. But yeah, the gist of it is that's still a good team to have. Behrman or Bortoletto? I actually like the idea of bringing in Behrman this weekend. Where was he in the budget builders? Yeah. So he looks better on the... I say better. They look basically identical. But Behrman, like I mentioned, he... Without that penalty he got in the sprint, it would have been a brilliant weekend for him. Absolutely brilliant. And I think he can continue that going into Mexico. I have faith in him more than I do in Bortoletto at the minute, just because I don't really know where that Sauber sits right now. It's so confusing where all of the cars sit at the minute. You don't know where Haas are going to be one weekend, where Williams are, where McLaren are, where Red Bull are. And I love it. I love it in actual F1 terms, but it's crazy for F1 Fantasy. Yeah, no, in it, Nixie. Like, I feel like I genuinely need to ask you whenever you've got Norris in. I'm like, nope, Nixie's got Norris and extra. Well, actually, hang on. Nixie, can you do something for me, please? So, can you bring in the template 3 times team when we head over to Qatar? No reasons at all. No reasons at all. Just for a few DNFs on that side so it equals out, please. But actually, talking about extra DRS, actually, I'll get through a few of the messages first. But with the season so far, it is logical we all go max 2 times and then we get another 100%. But here's the thing. Like you were mentioning, because we've all got max now, 94.2% of people have max in the top 500 in the Patreon. So that's basically a lot of people in the top 1,000. If we did get a Verstappen DNF, it wouldn't actually change anything. It'd change it if you had Red Bull as a constructor, but it wouldn't change anything else. We do not care about the editing. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, I just like when I watch the videos back, it's always because obviously it's slightly different how I watch the videos to everyone else, because obviously it's weird watching yourself talk about something you've already spoken about. So I quite like when I have some visuals and just any editing going on. It makes it more. It makes it quite enjoyable when I watch it back and when I'm editing it. I'm like, oh, this is actually quite fun. Tommy asks, if I didn't have McLaren, then what would be the best possible team? Right, let's do a 0 McLaren team. If you don't want to go anywhere near McLaren, which by the way I do not recommend. I don't recommend that. No, whoa, Yannick. No, to be fair, for me the most important part is that you guys enjoy the videos and such. I've always done, like, I'd say second, definitely, if I enjoy doing it, because at the end of the day, that's the reason I started doing all of this stuff. I still enjoy doing YouTube 4 years later. Can't believe I've been doing this for 4 years, by the way. Insane. It goes to show how much this channel's grown as well in the last year or two. But obviously as well, Oh, just know as McLaren as constructor. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. It's incredible though. I still love doing it, and I love putting out videos that everyone enjoys. Well, I say everyone enjoys. Sometimes I do decisive videos. Like sometimes I'll put out a ranking list and I'll be like, oh, please say I'm in the right here. But if you wanted a no McLaren team constructor wise, realistically, for what I can afford, it would be this. It would be this. No, assertive, get him. Yannick, get him out of here. Get him out of here. For anyone who hasn't seen that on the YouTube chat or the TikTok chat, Twitch people being dildos. Yannick. It's typical, isn't it? It's absolutely bloody typical. But Tommy, for me, a team that I could afford with no McLaren as constructor, it would be Verstappen 2 times with Norris, Sainz, Colapinto. Not Sainz, my bad. Let me get rid of Sainz, and that would be over to a Behrman. Behrman, Colapinto, Alonso with Red Bull and Mercedes. You could also go this, but I don't think there's... No, I couldn't even afford Ferrari, so I don't think Ferrari's an option for this sort of thing. However, if you couldn't afford it, then you'd either go double Alpine, or you would go to Russell, and then also pick up an Antonelli or a Tsunoda, like that. How many points have you got? Oh, good option. Good option. What the hell am I talking about? Good question. Yeah, screw them. 211 points this weekend out. Not ideal. Not ideal considering it was an extra DRS use. And then in a global league, 2,085 in the world at the minute. We're still trying to get to top 1,000 in the world. Still very much doable. Still very much doable. But we've got to work for it now. We really have to. With 4,132 points. It's very close this season. I will say. I remember last year, I believe I was in the top 1,000 and I was still like 200, 300 off. No, maybe even more than that, than first place of Leapers. So it's a lot more of a compressed table this time round. I think it's because we've just had so many surprise DNFs, some crashes that really do affect everyone's F1 fantasy teams. Right, I'll get through the last questions, and then I'll be heading off because then I'm going to go make lunch. I'm going to go relax for an hour, and then I got the fan app recording. Thoughts on the sprint race? Brilliant lap one. Absolutely loved it for the championship because obviously Verstappen getting those 8 points just makes it even more interesting. Which would be it's getting so juicy for the championship because of that sprint race. But the rest of the sprint race was dreadful. Russell, that dive bomb was interesting. But that was the only other thing that happened. And then the actual race was boring as well. The actual race was pretty dead. We had a few good crashes at the start, although, you know, did the TV want to show us Antonelli and Sainz crash at the time? Nope. Did they want to show us half the overtakes that happened? Nope. But overall, yeah, I'm still waiting for a decent race since Zandvoort and Silverstone were the last best races of this season so far. What about the McLarens? Just, it's a shame. It's a shame. Obviously, it's a shame they double DNF'd. But, like, it was Piastri-Hulkenberg's collision. I still think it was Piastri's fault, but Norris and Alonso were just unlucky to get involved with it. And McLaren, I think, will still be fine for the rest of the season, but it's going to get close between if they've got the constructors. That's all that they really care about to an extent. They'd love to get the drivers, but it's a prize that if they ended up not winning, they wouldn't care too much. It'd be more Norris and Piastri would be pissed. I'm considering Red Bull for Ferrari. Oh, well, let's have a look at this team and see exactly what it looks like. I'm considering Red Bull Ferrari. Yeah. So that's a differential team, but I understand why you'd go that route. With Max as the 2 times. Yeah, I don't know why it's showing Piastri 2 times. Don't 2 times him. With Russell, yeah. Behrman, Alonso. Yeah, I like Behrman. I really like Behrman this weekend. For next weekend, I mean, my bad. Behrman. Alonso, Lawson. Oh, Lawson as well. Bloody hell! What is that budget? Oh no, actually, I've got that budget as well. And for a second, the maths wasn't adding up perfectly for me. I was getting a little bit overwhelmed with it. But right, here's the thing, yeah. See you, Tommy, in a bit, man. Hope you have a good rest of your day. So, Craig, I do think it is a good differential team. But at the end of the day, I still expect McLaren and Mexico to come out and outperform Ferrari in the actual race and in F1 fantasy terms. So I do think you're going to struggle on points. I also think Piastri, without the DNF, will outperform George Russell. So you've also got that points, but I think it's going to be close between them. It'll be like Piastri 3rd, Russell 4th or 5th. Something like that. Or Piastri 4th, Russell 5th. Similar along those lines. You've got good B tier options, though. That is the good thing. But I just don't think there's enough upside to not be looking at keeping McLaren. I think that's about it. Oh, well, I mean, they've just pushed it back. And I mean, you've also got these sorts of teams as well. I could stay similar to these sorts of teams, but I don't think I will. So let's do a final little rundown before I go of just everything that we need to know heading after the sprint race. Jeez Louise, I still think it's bloody Saturday. After Cota. First of all, Leclerc had a great weekend. Do I expect him to be getting 48 points every single weekend in F1 Fantasy? No. He's a good use for budgeting options, but at the end of the day, it's just, I'd be surprised if he was even in the top 3 results for F1 Fantasy. Maybe he can still get a podium next weekend. Heading into Mexico. Verstappen is 100%... yeah, innit? I wish it was still Saturday. Verstappen is guaranteed slap bang everyone's 2 times option. Heading out of Cota and heading into Mexico, it's no surprise at all. That is the way it looks like it's going to be. Who then do you bring as your second constructor? Well, it's between Piastri, Leclerc and Russell. I think Piastri will still get more points than both of them, but if you want budgeting options, Leclerc for the budget, Russell for the differential. Then heading over to the B tier drivers. No one looks good bar Yuki and Antonelli for going up potentially 0.6 million. Tsunoda, I like him in the sense of if you have a bit of money left over and you're going to the Verstappen-Piastri route, you could bring in Tsunoda. Or the Verstappen-Russell route, you could bring in Tsunoda as well. Or maybe an Antonelli. But the rest of them, Colapinto could be good to have just because he can hold that budget at 4.5 million. He can't drop any further down. 0.2 million increase probably will be happening. But the rest of them, Alonso, Behrman, Lawson, Bortoletto. All 4 of those, pick and choose who you want. They're identical basically on going up 0.2 million or 0.6 million. It's a luck of the draw who's going to do better. I say luck of the draw. We can actually do a little bit of working out. Alonso and Behrman are my favourites purely because Behrman's been looking pretty good so far and Alonso as well. Not in F1 fantasy terms because he got the DNF, but he has been doing half decent results. So I like him as an option as well. Don't bring in Hulkenberg, don't bring in Ocon, don't bring in Stroll, don't bring in Albon. I don't think it's a weekend where Albon's worthwhile because you've got the likes of Tsunoda who's ready. Williams are now at 80 constructor. I don't think you should be using them because you can realistically get Verstappen Russell teams that adds up most of the time for people to be able to get over to McLaren and Mercedes minimum, or even McLaren and Red Bull. Who do we pick as the 80 constructors? Well, it's between keeping McLaren. Do you keep McLaren? Do you go differential route of Red Bull Ferrari, Red Bull Mercedes? I don't think you do. I still think McLaren are a worthwhile option to keep, but I think trying to get over to a McLaren and Red Bull is a very decent option. McLaren Mercedes also good as well. I still think McLaren are the way to go forward in F1 fantasy terms. I'd be surprised if everyone fully went off McLaren. And then that is about it for heading into Mexico. I'll talk more about it obviously, in the fan app video coming out tomorrow when I will record it in about 2 hours or something. We'll see how that goes. I've got to make some notes on it as well, actually. But, oh, sorry, pardon me. I'm still lacking from the weekend because all the working and shit. Yeah, my bad. And Yannick's put in something brilliant there. VCarb's the only constructor for a smaller team that could be viable. I also agree. 14.2 million VCarb. He is the new, if you can't afford to have 2 80 constructors, you go over to him. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this live stream today. Yannick, I'll see what I'm doing, but I might be live later today doing a bit of racing sim stuff, so the top 10% stuff, because I really want to bash that out and get it done, because I'm so close to it now. We've only got like 5 tracks to go or something. Might do that today or maybe tomorrow, depends on how well rested I am. I don't know, I'll see, and basically how much work I've got to do today, because I've got work to do after the recordings as well. But we'll see. Anyway, so thank you all so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. And I'll see you on Tuesday on the FanAmp channel. I'll see you on Wednesday on my own channel, and then Friday on my channel again. And then let's do it all over again. Come on, Mexico.